Page 104, The Entertainer, a very famous ragtime piece. At the top of the page, they give you some warm-up exercises for the left hand. These patterns, these notes you're going to find in the piece. I prefer to just go to the piece. I don't like exercises. Yuck. So let's look this over. It's 2 pages long, more or less. 4/4 time. No sharps or flats in the key signature. We're in the key of C major. Make sure you can do the scale for C major and A minor. Just do them both. You ought to be doing them 2 octaves up and down by now. Just do as I explain it in the scale videos I have on those scales. Take it one hand at a time. Good moving around, and we got syncopation. Ragtime has lots of syncopation. At the beginning, in the right hand, the notes are written here. Here, the thumb comes down, but it has an 8 VA above it. So we're starting up here, actually. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then the next measure is the same notes without the 8 VA. So you just lift up and come down. 3. Measure 3, it's the same notes, an octave lower. And then the left hand finishes it. At the end of the line, second line, the 2/8 notes, 1, 2. This fingering, you can do this. This is throughout. That's fine. Sometimes I do a 2, 3, 1, just so I don't have to use thumb both times. Whichever. You can use 1, 2, 1. And then measure 5. 1 and 2 and 3. So beat 1 is that. Beat 3 is a C. And the other notes are in between. Isn't that fun? You can see how they line up between the 2 staves, and you're playing on the beat in the left hand, and these notes in the right hand are in between them. So you're playing on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then going on, we're going to take advantage of the repeated note to change hand positions. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and. Measure 8, and then you lift up and come back down. And do it again. And then measure 10. The 8th notes, reach down the 4th finger. 2, 1. So this kind of a move is very common in piano. So yeah, and connect the notes. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Second finger comes down. They don't need the natural sign in front of the F on measure 12. It's an F natural anyway, but you just had an F sharp and they're just being clear. Make sure you play an F natural is what they're saying. You lift down, then lift up and come down. Lift up and come down. Left hand. Well, left hand's got broken chords. Start on measure 5 at the bottom. You're just here. 2, 1, 3, 1. That's fine. Now in measure 5, if this doesn't work for you, then you got to do that. Depends on how big your hands are and how fat your fingers are. But if you can, use the fingering in the book. And then block chords. Let's go to measure 11. Here we have the D chord. Then with the thumb again. I suggest you second finger there. We have a problem here. Thumb is nice because then you can just reach down to the octave to go on. Here. But if you second finger, now you can't reach it. Now you got to go down here. So which do you want to do? You want to go from here to here, use thumb twice, or from here to here. You pick one. Whichever you want to do is fine. And then 5th finger, you got to come up. I'd like to connect those notes, but the staccatos are going to help us out, so we'll go ahead and use the fingering in the book. Here. I mean, if I really needed to connect them, there were no staccatos, I wanted to connect them, then I changed the fingering to let me do that, which means instead of little finger, I just use 3rd finger and cross over here and then 2 and 1. And I could connect them that way. So I'm coming from here, because a lot of times you're going to want to connect them. However, we're going to take advantage of the staccatos that are provided, and we'll just use the fingering in the book. Put the hands together. Starting at measure, let's say, start at measure 3, where the left hand comes in. You're here, and the right hand. And connect all that together. It's got to sound like one hand played it all. Rest. Now we come up. And if you would like to start that instead of thumb, because you just hear it, you can go ahead and use second, 2, 3, 1. If you want, that's fine. See, this is where I'm talking, where the left hand plays on the beat, and the right hand's playing wherever. On measure 7, make sure you play the rest in the left hand. So you go through and put the hands together. The speed's not important right now. We're just trying to get the hands to work together, and then go back through it however many times it takes and get rid of all the hesitation, so it is a steady beat. Slow's fine, but it's got to be a steady beat. No hesitations anywhere. Because you're moving the hands around a bit, that can take some practice. Once you can do all of that, we'll think about the staccatos. At the beginning, your staccato, this helps because you got to lift up and move down. However, be careful, because a lot of times when we do a staccato and we lift up, we'll accent it. Because we lift up, we give it extra. You know, because of that, don't. It's just a staccato, not an accent. Now on measure 4, you for the chord, that's a staccato, and now accent, a little extra, short. And I'm using wrist staccato on here. Connect this. And the left hand, I suggest you just disconnect it slightly. Not really short staccato, just slightly. And short staccato, those are staccatos. So it's... Now in measure 7, those are not staccatos. You go through and put in this dynamic, or the articulation. Now at the last measure at the bottom, page 105, the second ending, you're here, and you come down. That last note is a C, a low, low C. It's 2 ledger lines below the staff. Remember, 1 ledger line is an E. You should know that note. 2 is a C. You really need to memorize that note. You're going to get it quite a bit, so just know it. So it's a C. Hold this down. And staccato on the left hand. Now, the different ways of interpreting this. This is the last measure. Here, you can lift both hands at the same time. Here, it's not what's written, but some people do that. Or go ahead and hold this out the full count. So at the end, after you played that, there's just a little time where that's still down. Until 1, 2, 3, 4 comes up on beat 4. I typically hold it out because a lot of times you'll get staccato in the accompaniment where you want the melody held out. So I tend to do that anyway. There is a way to notate it if they really want you to lift them up at the same time. But people will interpret it that way anyway. So, okay. Dynamics, go to the melody. You're loud, whatever you think loud is. Makes the accent note very loud. And now you're soft. I suggest you're soft at the in the measure 4 on those 2 8th notes. Those are soft. Those are pickups to it. That makes the left hand very soft. Then you're going to go up to loud. Measure 8, you come down here. Different editions do different things. This is a nice arrangement, but it is an arrangement. So I could almost get that little hairpin arrow on measure 8, take it away, and just make that soft here. Or do that if you want. If I'm going to do that, I probably should do that also on measure 4. On those, put a little decrescendo. See, they're inconsistent with what they're doing. So I'll leave that up to you and your teacher. For this video lesson, I'll go ahead and do what the book says. I just question whether it's really... If I were going to perform this, I would not do it that way. I would start each of those pickups, those two-note pickups, I would start those softly. What we have is a statement reply, where the statement is this, and the reply is this. Statement, reply. Statement, reply. And then it just kind of finishes that out loud. Fourth one, and that's really the way this is set up. Usually the statement is loud and the reply is soft, but this is switched. But be sure and do that. You want one soft and the other loud. You don't have to be very loud with it, just loud, and keep the left hand in the background. As far as speed goes, Scott Joplin himself put in not fast. That's his instructions, because the tendency, and you'll find recordings of this, where people just play this lickety-split. Hey, we're having fun. And no, that's totally out of character for what the composer really wanted. Keep it back. Something about in there, about a moderato is fine. It's good enough. You have first and second endings at the bottom of page 105. So when you get to the repeat sign on the first ending, you're going to go back to the reverse repeat sign at the beginning of measure 5. You just go back to there and do all that mess again, and then do second ending and finish it up. Please don't copy me. I play this 10 times. I play it different every single time, because I like to experiment. I like to try out with different interpretive ideas with it. Just don't violate anything the music tells you to do. You got to do what the music tells you to do. But other than that, there's a lot of stuff we can do. Now, a little bit about ragtime music and syncopation and all this. Remember, music has natural accents. And the first beat of every measure is the strongest. Measure 5. 1, 1, 1. We want to hear that. Oh. I exaggerated the accents. The idea with natural accents is you feel them. You don't force them. And if you'll feel it, 1, 2. And there's one on beat 4 also, or what, beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Feel these as you go through this. And you'll kind of do it. Measure 11. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And with syncopated notes, because we want to hear that kind of thing. that would be okay, but we're playing it early. And so we accent the syncopated note. Give it a little extra. So, and bottom, bottom, bottom. On these, I tend to accent the C's just a little bit. So you put in accents occasionally, just little accents and feel them. That's part of interpreting music. I'd like to play this with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do any dynamics. I am going to do the repeat though. We'll do all of that, and I'll do the staccatos and stuff. So I'll give us 4 counts, if even one hand at a time if you need to for a bit. 1 and 2 and ready and go, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3. And 2 and 3 and. And 3 and 4. And 3 and. And 2 and 3 and. Repeat.